con la sua relazione Beyond Teaching and Research, How MOOCs are Widening Participation and Empowering Communities. La sua relazione sarà in inglese, ma poi potrete porre le domande anche in italiano perché il professor Teixeira le conosce l'italiano perfettamente. Prego.
Okay. Can I start? Okay. Buongiorno. First of all, let me apologize for speaking in Italian. I can actually, as it was said, I can fully understand you in Italian, but I don't feel comfortable in speaking in Italian. It would be a disgrace for me and for yourselves as well. So I'll spare you that thing. Anyway, regarding this presentation, as this is part of a panel, this is more like a questioning than actually a full presentation of a set of ideas. So it's more like a kind of a provocation. Still before starting, I would like to thank the invitation to once again come to the EMEMITALIA. I've been here last year and I'm really impressed. I was already impressed last year because of how you managed to actually join 3 different organizations and 3 different associations and actually create this effective scale of scaling up your own capability of producing this initiative. And I'm really impressed this year how this has grown. So instead of 3, you have 8 associations joining together and actually bringing this possibility of actually coming out with a platform which is representative of the expertise of the Italian community of e-learning and open education. And this is really important and also significant because it relates to the values, to the core values of the open education movement as well. So the capability of joining together, of associating different institutions and organizations in order to scale up. Oh, okay, sorry. And so I was just completing this part. So if this is something that I think is quite significant and very important. Just a small remark about the, well, first of all, let me ask you if you, by any chance, I'm not speaking strong enough, please tell me. Because actually, from my point, I'm hearing perfectly myself, so. I would like your help on this. A short explanation about the photo as well. This is not a kind of statement on the end of schools or the end of universities. On the opposite, what it's basically is a kind of a challenge that tries to signify that the universities themselves are changing their space. So they are leaving the classroom, but they are still very much alive and strong. Well, can we do? Okay, thank you. Well, this is the picture I would like to start with, and for me it represents a little bit most of what I want to actually stress. This is a picture that is actually real. This is not something made up. These are students that are, this was an experiment that was actually taken in, that was organized in the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And so this represents actually students that are formal students that are engaged in a kind of a tour, learning tour, and they are learning in the museum using bring your device system. So what do I intend to actually represent with this is, I would say, 2 things. First of all, the blending of what we traditionally understood as 3 different formats of education. Formal education, non-formal education, and informal education. What this image represents, in a way, is that these 3 different formats of education are blending together, and there is a transition that actually is happening between the different formats. So an experience, a formal education experience, can be mixed and blended with a non-formal and even an informal experience as well. This is something that is important when we start to discuss the third mission of the university, because my proposal to you in this panel is that also the different missions of the university are blending together, and the transition between the three is becoming ever more clear as well, or less clear on the opposite. So it's becoming much more intense. One thing as well that this image represents is on the other hand, the fact that a traditional museum as this one has reorganized itself and reorganized its space and its own museum experience in order to accommodate technology, but technology in a way that is also open to new creative forms of learning and of experiencing the museum experience. So this is something that also represents a little bit what the university as an institution has to do as well. So next, next slide. Okay, what does this have to do with MOOCs? In a sense, also MOOCs, and if you look at the current production of MOOCs, we also can find this blending of basically the non-formal and formal educational modes as well. And this is something that is important, not just for this discussion, but also for the understanding of the development of the MOOC movement. Well, these are figures that I'm sure that you're familiar with. Basically, according to the Class Central survey, last year we've registered already 35 million users, 35 million MOOC users across the world, which is double the figure from the previous year. So there is a clear expansion in the number of users. And this represents more or less the platforms that are being used. And of course, there is a dominance of the most known platforms, the American, US-based platforms, basically Coursera and edX. But there is already a number, quite a number of other platforms and other initiatives that are becoming, that are having an impact in the world. Of course, most of these are still courses that have been designed in a non-formal context, non-formal educational context, but very much based on content and on academic content. So this is something that we have to also take into consideration when we're discussing the third mission of the university in connection with MOOCs. However, we going to the next slide. So this is clear that the development of, and so the increase on the provision of MOOCs across the world is continue to grow. Of course, there is a difference between what is happening in the US and in Europe. You'll find, and we'll see this later on as well, in the US, more or less, the development of the MOOC movement is finding more or less a plateau of development, so it's reaching more or less a consolidation, and in Europe is still expanding very much, so in a very high number. Okay, thank you. This graphic relates to the online report in the US, and which it explains why we're reaching this plateau in the US, because basically the ones who are, you can see on the yellow and the orange, so the ones who have plans to develop, so the institutions who have plans to develop MOOCs have already, most of them, done so, and the other ones who actually have not decided or have no plans are the ones that are still basic, or better said, the ones who have not taken the decision are basically moving to the no plans group. And why so? Because basically in the US, MOOCs are becoming very much a production of the higher, the most reputed, most powerful institutions. And this is very different from what is happening in Europe. And this is very interesting for our discussion as well. Can we just, okay. This relates to the goals that institutions have regarding the production of MOOCs. This is a little bit complex, but if you look at the two on the top, you'll see the results from surveys that have been conducted in Europe. The first one is a survey that was conducted in the framework of the HOME project, the EU-funded HOME project, and the second one was conducted by the EUA. the European University Association. The two on the bottom are results from a survey conducted in the US. And as you can see, there's a very interesting difference between what are the expectations from American institutions and what are expectations from European institutions regarding what is the use, what is the purpose of MOOCs. Of course, regarding the first one, which is increased institutional visibility, there is more or less a consistency. So in both sides of the Atlantic, institutions take this as an important aspect. However, if you look on the right side, you see these gray and yellow and darker blue. The gray represents the use of MOOCs for innovative pedagogy. And it's interesting to see that this is more relevant for the US institutions than for Europe. However, on the opposite, if you look on the yellow and the blue, darker blue, you'll see that for the European institutions, it's much more important to use MOOCs for the yellow, which comes for flexible learning opportunities, so to widen the outreach, to search for new target groups, so to include, so to have an inclusive perspective on, so this relates to the third mission of the university, and on the yellow, on the darker blue, represents reaching out new students, so this importance of including new target groups. So there is a clear difference when we're talking about the MOOC movement on a perspective that is more, can be more, in a way, connected with the US approach and the perspective that is emerging in Europe. Okay, thank you. Also, looking back now on the European scene, we can see more in detail that the main aspects that are relevant for institutions, and this, of course, the survey was responded by institutional leadership, by institutional leaders, this relates to what is on, of course, the far right, which is these demands of learners and societies are clearly very important, and innovation area is really very important, and reputation and visibility is really very important. So these are the three main cluster of goals that institutions want to pursue in order to, when they actually are investing in the MOOC production. Clearly, innovation, reputation, and demands of, well, what is called demands of learners and society, which is basically what we can relate with the third mission of the university. However, it's very interesting that this this also, once again, is the perspective of the institutional leadership when they are asked about if they are actually happy with how the MOOCs, the MOOC provision is meeting their objectives. You can clearly see that in Europe, both on the first, on the top, on the second one, you'll see that there is a clear understanding that they are meeting at least most of these objectives. So there is a strong positive approach, opposite to what is sometimes is thought about, from institutional leadership in Europe towards the development of MOOCs. This is also connected with the role of the European Commission and the European policy in fostering this as well. Okay, yeah. So, well, getting back in the, now to the later part of the presentation. So these are basically topics for the discussion. This goes now focusing on the discussion on the third mission and how it connects with your organizational model of the universities. This is, well, I'm using this scheme from Professor Goddard from the University of Newcastle. What he calls the uncivic university basically represents what you could call the traditional institutional organization. So, of course, we have these two clear elements, teaching and research, and also the third mission, which basically accounts for other activities, not very clearly defined what they are. So there is this understanding that the core business of the university is teaching and research, and that should be focusing on rankings and excellence, and the other activities would be, the other targets would be on the periphery, and would be having to have, so to call for funding targets that basically are related with programs either from the Commission, the national government, and so on. However, what is interesting when we're discussing MOOCs, is that MOOCs relate to all of these three, and not just as it started to be characterized as only linked with the third mission. So MOOCs are being used for teaching in order to increase rankings, especially related with the top universities, and the use of these MOOCs in order for students to, for instance, conduct courses which are not offered by the main institution. For instance, there are several examples. The EPFL in Switzerland, for instance, in which the students themselves can replace some of the courses by MOOCs that are being then accredited by the university. So MOOCs that are not designed as a course will be then reused as part of a formal course. These also relate with research because most of them, especially in the US, come from research grants, or also in Europe are funded by research projects as well. So this is clearly also originating a lot of this provision. But what is interesting, now we can go to the third one, is that, well, reusing again the scheme from Professor Goddard, that what he calls a civic university is the university that actually blends all of these three dimensions. And so these are not just different, in a way, central points of the core business of the university, but all of the three are combined in actually creating a culture of knowledge co-creation. And in this sense, what is important as well is to understand how this can actually happen. And two important things, just to sum up, two important things have to be taken into consideration. First of all, what actually allows for the transition between these different formats is assessment and accreditation. So this is clearly now the focus of research, and also the development of MOOC platforms is to increase the possibilities of multiple opportunities for assessment, formal and informal assessment, and how these can be actually interchanged. So this is a critical area. Another one is how the university itself opens up its structure to not just see well, these opportunities of delivering MOOCs as a way of actually disseminating their own knowledge production, but also assimilating what is being produced outside. So how can these opportunities, learning opportunities, can generate content that can be reused by the university itself? And how can it be actually basically accredited and validated and accredited? And this is the the most important part. Well, just to sum up, okay, the next slide. So what is really interesting just is how the university can adjust to this. And of course, universities have to readjust their own organizational model. One interesting clue for this is to reuse the model that David Wiley firstly proposed when open educational resources were firstly introduced, which is to actually unbundle the organizational model of the university. And so actually also rethink universities as a little bit as we do with open educational resources. So separating the different functional areas and to actually collaborate across institutions and also across institutions and society. And in this sense, joining together forces and also sharing resources and sharing services. And this could, of course, will imply a big transformation on the organizational model. Well, of course, this can be discussed if you'd like. Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.